Welcome back to another show. We are back with another Spaces on X. We've converted over. Simon is back in New York, New Jersey, here tomorrow. So we just didn't record a show tonight. He is back in town and managed his way through everything. He joined us here on the Spaces as well. So he's around. He just has to go back up there tomorrow. So we're still kind of taking it easy and on our semi-hiatus where we are doing a lot of these spaces, but it's turned out very well. We've had a lot of fun with it, some great guests. And tonight we kind of go a little bit different than we have the past few weeks. We didn't really talk about Western North Carolina very much. We didn't have any of our people come in and jump on that, but we did get into some things about the election coming up. I think that's a huge deal and something we all need to be paying attention to, and had a big discussion on that and where it may lead us and what's really going on. And we also kind of talked about Trump going on Joe Rogan at the end of this week and got into a handful of other topics. Of course, we were joined by Chip Slate. BeinLibertarian hosted our buddy Smokey The Appalachistani. He joined us. We had Matthew Rife come on and talk for a bit. Stuart, he joined us. You know, of course, he's a familiar face on this show. He's on quite a bit of our shows here recently. Another one of our team members hasn't been on in a couple of weeks, but it was good to hear from him and his input, and because he's very well researched in what he does, and we had a good time. So we appreciate everybody that's been tuning in. We've had a ton of new listeners here lately, a ton of new people following us on social media. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/getontap. It's only $3 a month, dime a day minimum. You can always give more. Once we get back to doing the shows again regularly, we have an after show. We'll start putting the after show back up, get shows early and subscriber only content. We're going to start adding some other stuff on there too. We're going to get together and have a meeting of the minds and start figuring out ways to get more and better stuff out there to everybody, and just be patient with us. You can also subscribe on X. There's a subscription tab. We just came online this week, and it's only $3 a month over there as well. We're going to have subscriber only spaces in the future. We're going to have, you can see subscriber only posts from the podcast page and interact and things of that nature. And like I've stated many a times, and I state in this show, the people subscribe to us, they interact with us, they become part of our network, and we start helping each other a little bit more. So you're making an investment. You're not just throwing money at us and saying good luck. It's an investment into us, who is investing right back into Appalachia and our region and trying to make good things happen in our area. So for everybody that does support us, we appreciate it. Once again, that's patreon.com/getontap, or you can go to our tab on X and subscribe over there. Both are a little bit different. You're going to get some different stuff, but no less, you will get some cool stuff, and we're working towards that. And for everybody out there on Instagram or X or any of those accounts, go make sure you're following BeinLibertarian and all their pages, and also at Appalachistani for Smokey, that's his. And of course, we're at Get On Tap, and we appreciate everybody tuning in and listening, and I really hope you enjoy this one.
Okay, thanks for joining back. This looks like this one's working here. I've got my co-host added, no problem now. So we'll let this populate, and we'll start here shortly.
I guess the real question is it going to work for Billy?
That indeed is the $1 million question. We'll see what we can do.
We should have set up a pool on whether or not it was going to work or not. I feel like we could have made some good money off of him.
Yeah, the problem is the odds wouldn't be any good.
That's true.
For those joining, I'm giving this just a couple of minutes to populate, and because I had to restart the space for some technical issues, and then we'll get started. We have Billy.
Yeah, he claims it's working.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Stuart?
Oh, nothing much.
What's up, Stuart? Good to have you.
Hey,
We're
Chip.
starting to populate here.
Hey, Chip, how was Dave Chappelle?
Oh my God, it was amazing. I didn't think about it going in, but we got to hear his take on Diddy, and man, it was fucking amazing.
Oh, he had
I
that.
just saw that like a minute ago.
He had that Diddy sketch back on Chappelle's show with the Cambodian breast milk.
Exactly. Yeah, he kicked that shit off. So it was great to hear his story. And he reminded me that, and he reminded us that, you remember when that crazy person, like tried to tackle him and like knife him on stage, like at the Hollywood Bowl?
Yeah.
Like apparently Diddy was the one who tackled that guy. Which is crazy. So he was telling that story, and I won't give away the punchline, but because I expect you'll see the skit somewhere soon. It was so damn funny though.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where'd y'all go to? Roanoke?
No, it was in Durham.
Okay.
Yeah, the Durham Performing Arts Center down there has some decent things every now and again.
One of the few exceptions for me to ever travel to the Triangle.
Yeah, amen.
Tell you, that's a super populated area now, that Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area.
Yeah, my father-in-law lives down in Emerald Isle, and we have to drive through it twice, going there and back, and it's the worst part of the trip.
I can't imagine.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Oh wow, there he is. I lost the bell.
Wow, it works.
Gotcha, Billy.
For now, we'll hold it. We'll cross our fingers. But I just want to make sure everything was going. I've sent the link to Simon a couple of times. We'll see. He's supposed to show up. He said he was, but you know how it is with him. So, Nick, did you ever get a hold of your guy down in Burnsville? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, or if he's listening.
Which one's Nick? I'll add him as a speaker.
I can get him right here.
Oh, you got him. Okay.
There he is.
He's going to try and hit me up when he gets back.
10-4. Appreciate it. Hopefully he can jump in here at some point in time. I think we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about tonight. Honestly, it might be one of our more entertaining spaces we've had so far. I mean, the first three we did last couple of weeks, when we really got into it, a little more depressing and centered around nothing but the hurricane and relief and things like that. Not necessarily depressing in a bad way. Just, I mean, you know how it is. It's having to face realities, all that kind of stuff. But tonight, we're going to touch on that a little bit, and it'll be pretty. But I'm excited to talk about a couple other things that are going on right now. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Simon is in.
There he is.
Oi, oi.
Simonizer.
Can you hear me?
We can, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Got a few issues, but nothing I can't handle.
Well, it's good to hear you. It's
You
been
back
too long.
home?
Been too many weeks now.
Yeah, I was doing that 3 weeks up at Sloan Kettering, and that beat me up a little bit. And I'm heading back there tomorrow, so for another 3 days. So yeah, a little bit beaten up, but getting through, punching through.
That's good to hear you, Simon.
Man, and so much crazy shit's been happening. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, what do they say? Nothing will happen for 20 years, and then 200 years of history will happen in a couple months, something like that. It's a crazy time.
There's decades where nothing happens, then there's days where decades happen.
Yeah, there you go.
The damn truth.
Well, we were kind of working around trying to get the mayor on the show tonight and do it up at the cabin, and then that just didn't work out. Which I'm kind of glad. I like these spaces, and they're pretty interesting to just convert over into the podcast form, because I like them a little bit better than Zoom, because you don't have to really worry about sitting right in front of your computer and all that kind of stuff. And it's more like a radio show than a podcast, which is kind of neat because people get to, tune in and answer questions, ask questions.
Did you just with Billy?
What's that?
I like this format too because I can clean my rifles that are dirty, dirty girls right now and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can, take you a crap or toot you or whatever you got to do and do it all and not have to worry about anything else. It's pretty neat, and it's just getting out there and reaching a few more people. And the numbers have done fairly well. Like last 3 weeks have been unbelievable.
Did you just admit that you're taking a crap right now?
No. I would like to. I was considering it. We won't bring that information to the table, but I could be doing it and you'd never know anything about it.
I don't know. I've got my only comment about this format is it's a problem to control in walking over folks, and that to me is very problematic.
Well, see, on our end, as the host, you have the ability to just mute somebody right away or push it along. And this is kind of like a Zoom. A Zoom, you're going to get the same thing, even if it's one or two people. You're going to have the same issues. So I just like this because you can do it from home, and it's certainly a very easy and valuable substitute. Well, the walking over people and talking over it happens, but most of the time people will one or the other will back off. And honestly, when the silence comes in, after I put this through the software, it cuts all the silence down. Like the last show, I think lasted 2 hours and 41 minutes, but when I sent it through and it cut all the silence, I think it knocked 20 minutes off or something. So it does a good job of cleaning it up and piecing it all together. It's pretty neat. It also takes out fillers as well. So if Simon is, 3 or 4 rum drinks in and says 7 times, it takes out all those ums and it just gets straight to the point.
Oh,
That's
outstanding!
pretty
Anything
neat.
that makes me look better.
Is it
No,
like
I
an
didn't
AI?
stumble. I didn't stumble over my drink 7 times. It was only twice, according to Billy's software.
Outstanding.
Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with one topic while people are sort of filing in, because it's sort of developed in the last 2 or 3 days here and it's a reality. But Donald Trump is going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast on Friday. What do y'all think of that?
Oh my God! About time.
I tell you, go ahead.
I was just going to say he's definitely a different candidate than he was in 2020 and 2016.
I tell you, I'm excited for it because I've watched several of his podcast appearances recently, and I thought that the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz was his best one yet. And it'll be interesting to see him with Rogan, because I think Rogan will have a bit more pointed questioning of him and push back on some of the things he says a little bit. So I think look, it's probably going to be, at least in modern times, the best kind of display of a presidential candidate that we've ever seen. So,
Well, and I mean, is this not like two masters of their crafts? I mean, sitting down together, you got the master podcaster and you got the master media handler sitting at a table together for the first time.
Who both share the friendship and admiration of Elon Musk.
and Dana White.
Yeah.
I think we lost you there for a little bit, Stuart. What was that?
I said, and Dana White. They have Dana White in common too. Trump shows up at those UFC events to an absolutely raucous standing ovation, and a lot of times Joe Rogan is the one announcing those, and so they've got several connections. So I think it's going to be interesting.
Well, I think the biggest question is what changed for Rogan, because he had alluded to in the past many times he didn't really want to have any presidential candidates on because he didn't want to seem biased in either direction. Now, granted, he had RFK Jr. on, but I think that was before he announced his presidency run. And he's had other, Tulsi on there before she ran. He's had people who have run, but I don't think he's ever had any actual contenders. So, what changed for him, do you think? Because this is kind of shying away from what you expected.
Maybe he's just been looking at the poly market odds and decided to throw some extra money at the wall.
Yeah, I was going to say just the numbers alone that this is going to generate, and and I think clearly he's invited Kamala's team to do the same thing, but that's obviously not going to happen. But I think if he extends the option to both, then he's in the clear. It's just that I agree with you. I wonder what changed his mind or what made him decide to finally do this.
Well, I mean, now I could be wrong about this. Maybe somebody more in the mix of the libertarian top circles or whatever, but I kind of heard that a big reason that Dave Smith kind of decided to maybe pull back a bit was because Rogan didn't want to have any presidential candidates on the show, and Dave Smith wanted to continue kind of doing his own thing and making sure he was on the show and build his brand, which I can respect. But that's kind of what was explained to me. So if he wasn't interested in having one of his close friends on the show as a presidential candidate, something certainly has changed, and for the better, obviously, because this might be the most listened to podcast of all time. It very well could break the internet. I'm excited to hear it, but something has shifted the winds.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that I think the gravity and what is clearly a critical situation in our country's path in history, I think it's got very serious, and he realizes that this show that we call a presidential election is beyond anything that we've ever seen.
Well, there's something I think guys have to remember. A couple of years ago, when Psaki was still the press secretary, they tried to get Joe Rogan off the air. They actually petitioned all these different groups like Spotify to remove him. So I'm wondering if he gets Harris in, will he ask that question, hey, why'd you try to get me off the air?
Look, Harris is never going on there. And I think I kind of agree with Simon. I think that Rogan sees that this is a major inflection point for the country, whether we continue down the path we're kind of going on now, or whether we at least get some sort of stabilization with Trump. And I also see that I think that he sees that Trump has gone on all these other comedians' podcasts that he's kind of helped launch, to be honest, and figures, hey, it's, I think it's his turn to have Trump on now. So I kind of think it's a combination of the two things, that, what Simon said and the fact that he's done Theo Vaughn and he's done Flagrant now. So I think that's part of it too.
I think something came up in today's feeds about suppression of freedom of speech, and it was related to the UK situation, and advisors over here pretty much pressing that path and looking to suppress X in the run up to the election. So I suspect that there's something there in play as well.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to look it up right now. Leading Report posted about it earlier, or something between the Harris administration and maybe the Labor Party, who are sending their 100 technical advisors here for whatever reason.
That's it.
There's something about them trying to suppress X or remove it entirely or something.
Yeah, and that's clearly a move on suppression of speech, and could well be seen as election interference from the UK, and the Harris campaign are embracing this. So I've got a feeling there's going to be some. The mudslinging is just going to get absolutely marvelous to watch over the next 2 weeks. I can't wait. Well,
What does this show for Trump do? I mean, obviously Rogan's one of the biggest in the world. I mean, do you think this pushes him over and leaves no doubt? I mean, what is the potential impact here?
I think we're already there. I think the numbers aren't lying. I think the Harris campaign is in the death throes of collapse. I think
that's a free fall for them, I think.
Yeah, and I think Rogan will just launch that trajectory, and it will become blatantly apparent, and you'll see people running far, far, far away from Kamala Harris's administration.
Well, what do you think they end up talking about? What are some of the subjects? Do you think they get deep? Do you think Rogan goes at him hard? Do you think it's a fun, lighthearted conversation? Who dominates the conversation? I think that's a big question, because we know they're both type A alpha personalities going into a room together that both like to control the flow of things. So how do we expect the conversation to go?
I read something that somebody said that Trump is one of the hardest people to interview, because the conversation goes whichever direction he's intending it to, which, I don't fault the man. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you what's the old saying? If you don't like what's being said, change the conversation.
Well, he's a master of that. And so, but Joe, he's used to driving his own ship. So that's why it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And it'll probably be a roller coaster. You'll have times where Trump's sort of taking the lead, and then where Rogan probably hits him on some things and Trump wiggles out of it. But them having a rapport already with MMA and the UFC is going to, I agree with you, Stuart. I think that's going to play into this heavily, because he may ask him some tough questions, but, Donald Trump can handle tough questions in the media. So I don't think he'll get too heavy on him, but it'll still be fun. And I think everybody's really going to enjoy the back and forth between them and where they do actually go.
I think at the end, we're going to wake up the next morning and see some leftist media outlet saying that it was a white supremacist conversation, regardless.
Well, it's just like the day after Trump's at McDonald's, they have an E. coli outbreak by the CDC, right? I mean, that's just accidental, right?
Yeah, that was a slap on the wrist, wasn't it?
Hold on.
Hey, I heard that he plans to fix the ice cream machines if he's elected, though.
Somebody fill me in on this CDC stuff. What was that? I missed it.
Like they said that McDonald's had an E. coli outbreak like nationwide, like made a big deal about it. And this is the CDC reported this, not McDonald's. The CDC just decided today to expose this E. coli outbreak that's apparently all over the nation with McDonald's, and it's just really sketchy with the timing.
What do you mean a government entity shouldn't be trusted?
Wait, you mean to tell me that the people who say it's okay for us to have 64 fly eggs in our peanut butter and in our raisins are saying that there's a problem?
Yeah, it's
Surely not.
So how long are we expecting Trump to go on? Rogan shows typically go 2.5, 3 hours. Some very few go around an hour, hour and a half if it just seems like conversation's not going or it's something pressing. Most of Trump's go on an hour or so. So I mean, do we get the full 2.5 hours here? I mean, do they really go at it?
I think it'll be 2+ hours. He did Flagrant for about almost an hour and 40 minutes, I think it was. And so I think that he's probably blocked out 2 hours, and my guess is it'll go a little over that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, he's going to get his money's worth. I mean, both of them are going to, I think, want to get their money's worth with this. And Trump, I think, will want to show that he can, sit there and be his buddy or, be a friend of him more than just somebody that's on there. So it's going to be amazing to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tuning in or at least listening to it after the fact. I need to catch up on a couple of these other ones. I don't really have the time to tune in and listen to all of them. But has Harris's team confirmed, or because I know the rumors are spreading about her? I know I agree with Stuart. I think there's zero chance she actually does it. But has there been an invite, or has there been any kind of discussion there? Do we know of?
I think there has been an official invite, but I mean, like I said, there's no way that I mean, she can't even get through a 15-minute scripted interview. I mean, there's just no way. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. There's no way you're going to see her on there. And I saw like Andrew Yang of all people today saying that he thought Kamala should go on Joe Rogan now. And I'm like, on what planet do you think that would actually happen, Mr. Yang? You're smarter than that.
The same planet where he gives everyone as much money as he claimed he was going to give.
That's right.
Well, what is it exactly that we're seeing right now throughout the media? With I can't imagine they're gassed at this point in time because there's so many of them. But you have Clinton essentially coming out and saying that Lincoln Riley would have never died, had something been different. You had Biden come out and saying something similar about a different situation. You had CNN has been pressing these people lately. I mean, are they just kind of throwing in the towel and saving their resources and saving whatever they got left in the gun because there's no way in hell they can pull this off? And on top of that, Trump just drives the ratings and Trump drives donations through the roof. So, I mean, it's almost in their best interest just to see this go around and not throw you know, all their weight behind Kamala Harris when it's just not going to work.
I think I can cover it in one word for you, Billy, and they've all been colluding.
Well, an hour ago, Joe Biden called for Trump to be locked up. So,
I mean, there's been so much interference and collusion between Harris's campaign and the teams. And when I say they're not even news teams. I refuse to call them that. They're propagandists, and it's just a damn show. But the collusion, it's embarrassing.
well, I mean, we've all known it for years that they're not journalists; they're reporters. They report off of the piece of paper that's placed in front of them, and we've all seen that creepy as hell video where it's like 200 some odd newscasters on different stations saying exact tone, words, and pauses. We're a fair and balanced news or blah blah bullshit. I can say this as an independent journalist because I am one of those now. Bullshit. They are not journalists.
No, they're complete propagandists. I mean, and even Trump has hinted recently, like with the whole way that 60 Minutes edited that Kamala Harris interview and changed her answers, like for Israel and stuff. He's mentioned maybe revoking their broadcasting licenses and stuff like that. So I think that some of these organizations are scrambling a bit and trying to kind of play it more down the middle, just in case,
Please defund NPR. Please defund NPR. Please defund NPR.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Seriously.
they really should. I mean, NPR is a joke. So, but yeah, I think some of them, like look at Saturday Night Live over the last month. They've started actually being funny again and playing things more down the middle. And I think they know the writing's on the wall that, Trump is going to end up winning, and that they don't want to be in the target zone if he starts coming after some of these people. So
here's something I would throw out there with regards to a lot of the pollsters and all the statistics and all the bullshit that's coming through and who's promoting what and who's got how many point lead and everything. If you're gonna, I dismiss them all because they're all corrupted. Okay, so we know the numbers are corrupted, and I don't really give a shit about who's doing the corrupting, because the biggest indicator when it comes to dealing with statistics, probability, comes from people that have money on the line. Now, when you start looking at some of the odds that are being presented by, some of the big time gambling firms out there, that's where I see the genuine poll numbers, because money is gonna, it absolutely drives the truth. Whereas all these pollsters and made up institutions that are offering their 2 pence are worth absolutely bugger all. So using these gambling statistics, I think it's pretty bloody clear who's winning.
Yeah, Israel and Ukraine.
Touche.
For those of you who didn't see that, they gave another $400 million to Ukraine just yesterday.
Outstanding.
Yeah, what just an absolute utter bit in the face to the people in Western North Carolina and East Tennessee, and even to a smaller degree, people in Southwest Virginia, our brothers and sisters. And you see so many of these. God, pardon my lying. I'm not going to curse because we're releasing this on a podcast. But all these just.
We're not supposed to curse in your podcast. Oh gosh. I'm sorry, Billy. You got to delete everything.
If I start now, I'm going to open up Pandora's box. But these fucking losers, they'll get on there and they'll scream up and down. They'll scream up and down. Well, you can do both. You can send. That's not the point. The point is you shouldn't be doing both. The point is, if you're sending $400 million to Ukraine and you're giving people in Appalachia peanuts by comparison, that's wrong. I don't care if you can do both. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that's a huge, huge problem with me right now. This is just getting ridiculous because now they gloat about it. And I think when they go on TV,
the money also for Appalachians isn't guaranteed, but the money for Ukraine and Israel is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, considering most of the videos I see of people trying to get the help from FEMA are being declined, I mean, it's a complete joke. And then they keep rubbing it in our face, sending all these millions and billions around the world. But I've said for a long time, I mean, look, for the cabal's plans to work, that the United States cannot exist as it has since its inception. And this is all part of the planned destruction of this country. And, luckily, groups like what we have here and other people are banding together and realizing this, and we're taking care of our own. I mean, more people have been saved, more people have been fed by people from this region than the federal government could even dream of at this point. So,
yeah, it's embarrassing. It really is. Hey, I've got something that came across my tiny little brain, and it was intriguing. And I'm wondering if you guys want to think about this. But
before you do that, put an emphasis on tiny brain now.
Oh, I am emphasizing tiny little brain, but it struck me, and it's slightly offbeat. But let's consider over the last 40 years, maybe. Let's look at the last 40 years. Can you guys name, and no explanation, no narrative, just name some of the vice presidents that we've had over the last 40 years, maybe 30 to 40 years?
Yeah, you had Bush Senior, you had Bush Senior, then you had, oh God, who was
Dan
Bush
Quayle.
Senior's vice president? Yeah, Dan Quayle. That's right. Couldn't spell potato. Then you had what? Then you had Al Gore. Then you had Cheney, and then you had Biden, and then Pence, and now Harris. So
okay, so when you look at that's very recent history, and it struck me that we are seeing, and there may be some good ones there or not. I view the majority of them as absolutely atrocious. Now, when you consider, oh yeah, so when you consider that they have been selected by the presidential candidate who ends up being the elected president, then he gets his vice president, and I'm absolutely staggered at the lack of quality in their selections when you consider with what we're seeing now as the elected presidents are getting older and older. The potential for a vice president stepping in is getting greater and greater. And the quality of VP selections is quite frankly atrocious. And I was trying to figure out, why is that?
Spoil system.
Go further.
I mean, it goes back to, I think, Andrew Jackson, I guess, the spoil system. Basically, the president can pick his cabinet and whoever they want to support him. I don't necessarily think that's the case anymore. I'm a firm believer that, whoever is actually really pulling the strings gets together and sits in a room and says, you're going to be the front man, but you're going to be working behind the scenes. I mean, it also begs the question of, if Kamala Harris wins, is she technically the elected president because she didn't actually win an election to get on the ticket?
Well, that constitutional crisis is another matter, but let's pick up from there. So if we're saying, actually, that's a very valid point. I'm just trying to figure that with the poor selection of vice presidents that we are being presented, would it now not be, and it ties in with something I've said earlier, that I would love to see us reverting back to senators being elected, not being elected, but being appointed by the state governor. So I've always, and I'm getting stronger and stronger supporting that particular stance. But also, does it not beg the question that should not the vice president be an elected position, not an appointed one by the president? Because what we've had over the last several decades has been the most shocking bunch of idiots as vice presidents that are second in line to the most important job on the planet. And it staggers me. So I think vice presidents should actually be elected.
Well, I think that would probably be all right. I personally don't believe that any of these actually selected these vice presidents. I think they were selected by the shady back room that really controls everything. Like Senior as his vice president at all, but there was a deal that had to be made somewhere along the way. I forget, it's something along that I read about it, but so he was focused on him, and we know that. Stuart, we can't hear you, man.
For anyone else, or is it just me?
No, I can't hear you, Stuart. He's completely lost.
Up real bad. He's being censored by
FBI Band 7. Well, but following on that point, the thing that made me sort of go down that rabbit hole was particularly with the last setup with a 50-50 Senate. That gives a lot of control. Well, it gives the ultimate control to the vice president. And as such, would it not be in the president's best interest to have a yes man in that place? And I don't think we want yes men or yes women in any position in government.
Well, personally, I mean, maybe they should, whoever is the VP, just sequester them to a hole in the ground. Maybe stick them in Raven Rock for the entire duration of the term, and they only come out if the president dies. You know, no other duties. Just, hey, you have to sit in this windowless hole in the ground for 4 years.
Yeah, no, but that doesn't serve.
Get the because something went wrong.
that doesn't serve the American public at all, though, because potentially there's the man in the wings, that's coming on stage should the leading role just have flu one night. But it's more serious than that. Considerably more serious than that. So I'm firmly believing that the vice president's role actually needs to be enhanced as the potential replacement for what is an aging president who appears to be consistently winning office, whoever that is, on whichever side. Notice I was being very apolitical there.
Personally, I feel like it goes all the way back to World War II, because if you look at like just the historical,
I think the problem is it always comes back with the vice president of, if you get somebody that's a populist, you always get that worry of, okay, well, how long until one person that thinks that he was more suitable for the job, gets on a sloped roof that the Secret Service aren't allowed to go onto and makes that person president.
Hey,
let's go to Appalachian Liberty. I think he's been talking.
Oh yeah, it's cool. Sorry, my headset was glitching out on me. I kind of feel like the whole aging president thing is just a symptom of a larger.
You there, brother?
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear him.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think the aging president thing is like a symptom of the larger problem, because if you look back at World War II, most of the world was devastated, like manufacturing and infrastructure blown all to hell everywhere else. And here in the United States, we were relatively untouched, except for like Pearl Harbor, which really wasn't that big of a deal in the grand scope of things. They just had to clean up the wreckage. But that made the United States economically the world superpower by default, because we were just the only ones that didn't get blown all to hell. And with all that economic power spinning out of that war, you've seen like the rise of like this huge, massive American hegemony all over the world, and we kind of became the new Rome for a while there. And this big system of insider boys, the George Bush CIA and stuff like that, they built this intricate system of, like, we're talking history, Henry Kissinger and things like that. They built this intricate system where they just kind of puppeteered the entire planet. And now that all these people are getting so old, they're getting desperate, just trying to keep it Frankenstein together as best they can. And it's just not working. And now you're seeing them like desperately throw in people like Kamala Harris, who they know they can control, but is an absolute midwit at best. And their entire system's falling apart. But then it goes even deeper to things like Social Security. Social Security is not going to be viable here in another few years. And the national debt is going to reach, 54 trillion within the next 10, 15 years. And that's like the ultimate collapse of this system that they've built. And they're trying very, very hard to keep their good old boys in there, but their good old boys are all 90 years old. So I think it's just they've brewed this perfect storm for themselves, and you're about to see major changes in the world stage like that.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just an odd election.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Stuart, go ahead. I think I saw you popping in. Go ahead.
I mean, I somewhat agree with what the guy was just saying. I do think it is partially, though, that these kind of legacy families that have been in government for so long now are kind of just holding on to kind of see their grand plans come to a crescendo. We've got, what was Agenda 21 turned into Agenda 30, and they're, the Kissingers of the world and the Brzezinskis laid out these plans, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And even before that, I mean, that all these balls started rolling down the hill. And so I think they're hanging on. And they put people like Biden and Kamala in there because they're complete puppets. They're complete puppets. And that's why they're so scared of Trump. I mean, look, Trump isn't, everything that we dream of, but at least he's working for a mafia that doesn't want to see us all dead. I mean, that's the good thing about Trump. At least he's not on the side that is wanting to, delete 7 billion people off the planet at this point, which is, the side that Kamala Harris fronts. That's their stated goal. I mean, you just go read their writings, listen to their speeches. They want the population around 500 million. So I think that you're seeing some of these older people just hanging on because they want to be in some form of power when they try to execute all these things. So that's
they've
my
also
take.
spent the last 60, 70 years killing all their babies, and that's really just cut their own throats because they're not breeding, and us more right wing people, we're actually outbreeding them. We're having children, and they're just getting replaced. Their way of life is dying, and ours is nothing but growing.
Not to mention, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not,
Yep.
not to mention that where, these quote oppressed people, and I'm talking about, the LGBTQAI, ABCD crowd, where they have now become the mainstream and they're everywhere in school and every teacher wants to wear their pride and every teacher wants to wear their color.
So, Billy, are you still with us, or are you off right now?
Can you not hear me?
I can hear Billy.
I can too.
Yeah, some people can't.
I got you.
So yeah, I was wondering because Smokey had to get off here. He was having those.
Okay, I can't hear Billy, so that must be on my end. I'll let
He was
y'all
having
go.
those issues, and yeah, now Chip can't hear us. These spaces are kind of weird. This is the same issues I was having a couple of weeks ago. Smokey could sign off. Chip can't because he's leading the discussion. So maybe I'll shoot him a message and tell him to jump on his wife's phone or something so he can listen and then add people. But what where was I at before he spoke up? What was I got off track?
You were saying the LGBTQAI.
Yeah, so now they're everywhere in schools and they're everywhere in the mainstream. And what do kids want to do? They want to rebel against that stuff. It's the same reason you had the hippie movement back in the 60s is because they wanted to rebel against conservatism. Now we're just seeing it in reverse. So not only are they killing their babies, not only are they cutting them off from reproduction by, changing their genders and sterilizing them. But also that these kids in the school, they're going to rebel against that kind of stuff because whatever their teachers and parents are doing is not cool. Everybody remembers being a teenager. We didn't want to do what our parents did. We were too cool for that stuff, no matter what it was. So I feel like that's just further taking it. And the pendulum will swing again, but
Yeah, I agree, Billy. They are rebelling against it. And I also just think that a good portion of these, teenagers today just inherently understand that the things that they're being told are go against nature and what their kind of, DNA programming is telling them. It's a crazy time. I mean, I was actually talking to a kid who goes to Franklin County High School a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how they're actually putting litter boxes in some of the classrooms now for some of these kids. And I asked him about it, I asked him about it, and he actually said that it's probably 90% of the kids there are making fun of these people, and so their programming really isn't working. It's picking off some of the weak-minded, but it's actually codifying a resistance against it. So.
Well, I mean, nature always wins. You just got to give it time. 100% of the time, nature's going to win. So if you're on the side that's killing your babies, if you're on the side that's wiping your butt with money and sending it to Ukraine, or taking the honest wages of hardworking people and sending it to Israel or whatever, or you're neutering your kids with chemicals, you are going to lose. Nature always wins.
yeah, it's we're definitely living some crazy times. I wonder if it's more or less crazy than the 60s. And I just asked that because they were doing some wild things back then. But then again, everything wasn't in your face. You didn't have social media right there feeding you this information straight in your brain 15 seconds after it happened. It might be the next day until you found out just a massacre or a mass shooting happened somewhere because your newspaper and news stations can only fit so much in at one time. So, I wonder if it's gotten this hostile at times and we just don't appreciate it, or these are the wildest times. But it leads me to a question, and interested to hear y'all's answer. Depending on how this election does turn out, if Trump wins, there's possibility. But if Kamala wins, I think that's the end of the republic as we know it. I don't think whatever we have here is any more. Is there anything off about that? Can that be changed, or is this going to be accepted?
I think either way, we are headed towards a very tumultuous several years. Look, I think that if Kamala, if they steal it again and they install her as president, I believe that you will start to see pockets of resistance around the country, like here in Appalachia, even parts of like super liberal California and New York and even liberal places. You're going to start to see pockets of resistance against the feds coming in and really cracking the whip. And because I think if she wins, they will be going after dissidents around the country. They'll be going after people like us. They'll either be, it'll be in a soft way, like with debanking and, silencing on social media and those things, or it could even be a hard way, like what they've done with Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro and thrown them in jail. My fear is that if Trump does get in, that then they are, and look, this is what they're signaling. People like Jamie Raskin are signaling that if Trump gets in, they're going to kick off some form of civil war. And I think that you'll see them you'll see them pull the plug on the banking system. I think you'll see the economy crash. I think you're going to see all sorts of horrible things happen. It's just that if Trump is in power when those things happen, we have a chance of resisting against it and reorganizing quicker than if Harris is in power. So at least if Trump is in, then you won't have the feds coming after us resisting against the force that it will be trying to destroy everything, I guess is my point.
Personally, I say bring it on, because I mean, like up here in Appalachia, most of the plants growing in your front yard are edible. My neighbor was telling me about like where his mom would collect plantain back when they were still living in a house with no running water, and that's growing in every single one of our yards right now, and you can use it to stave off snake bites. And like we're gonna be just fine, at least in Appalachia. I wouldn't want to be in one of the big cities because 3 days after the truck stopped delivering food, they're going to be like riots, and then 2 weeks after that, they're going to be trying to not get eaten by each other. You know what I mean?
And be careful. The X will. They did it to me previously.
I've been in the
the other thing,
I've been in the slammer before. I can handle it.
the other thing we're not thinking about is the 30 to 45 million illegals that they've flooded this country with that are mostly military age fighting men. So I think that that's a force that they will activate at some point to, come after. And look, I think if we do see kind of actual real, fighting breakout and stuff, it will be around the city centers. I don't think that our area will necessarily be affected by that, but it's going to be crazy, and there's going to be disruptions in supply chains and all sorts of other stuff. So it's a crazy time.
I think personally that we are going to witness a constitutional crisis. Now, we can go down every single path that presents, but a constitutional crisis is extremely serious. I mean, the lawyers get very busy on it and they'll be rubbing their hands together. But I can see that is going to be what will kick off any outcome, will be a constitutional crisis. That's going to be the root cause of anything after January the 6th.
I think.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, brother.
As far as the Constitution is fantastic. It's great. Ideally, in a perfect world, it would be a perfect document. But the ultimate thing that the ultimate thing that's going to ensure liberty among all people is that every man be armed, just like Patrick Henry said. I mean, if you look at it, the Constitution, yes, it's nice, but it's still just a piece of paper. And the only thing that can really enforce that is an armed public that can resist tyrants. Just like the Virginia flag has on it, Sic Semper Tyrannis, Sic Semper Tyrannis. I'm more of the opinion of Lysander Spooner these days. Like, it's either the Constitution has granted us the government that we have, or it has been powerless to stop it. And I think that ultimately this is going to be decided by what everyday blue collar citizens is willing to tolerate, and they're going to be able to fight back against certain things with their Second Amendment God given rights.
Let's hope it never comes to that.
Well, I kind of want to jump back into something Stuart was bringing up, because this is a question worth asking, and maybe one of y'all have a good answer. But that you do have 30 to 40 million immigrants now in this country, and people are asking themselves, well, what are they doing here? And your typical liberal response is
They're
oh,
doctors and engineers, Billy.
They're gonna do what?
They're engineers, Billy. They're only stealing stethoscopes and geological survey charts.
Well, I mean, and God bless them for that, but ultimately they're talking about using them for jobs. But what jobs are we talking about? Obviously, they are trying to kill off a lot of the population. I say obviously because, I mean, you have to be realistic about it. We have 8.5 billion people on this planet. Can we fit more? Can we sustain this? Absolutely. But there's no need, because everything's going automation. The need for this amount of workers is going away. That's why they're fine with the population going down. They don't need to want to support all these people that can't work, because there's no work to be had. And they certainly don't want them sitting around all day enjoying themselves. And if they're not enjoying themselves, they're going to be revolting. So just get rid of them altogether. So what are these 45 million immigrants actually doing here? Because they're not going to be filling up any jobs.
That's a great question, Billy. And I don't think anyone's going to be able to give an honest or correct answer, because it's multifaceted. But yeah, I mean, what are they all doing? Why did they all come? And why did they all come at the same time? Makes you wonder.
Yeah, I think mostly like they just like tyrants. It's actually one of the if you like read the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, like there's like a few like tried and true methods that tyrants always use to keep their population in line, and one of those is bringing in mass immigration from the outside to just kind of water down the population. And I really think that's what they're doing. But if you look at where these guys are mostly settling, it's in the big cities, and they're going to have hungry bellies just like all of us. But up here in Appalachia, we're going to be just fine, because if we have to, we can live off the land, and they can't do that in the cities because they've paved it all over. And it'll come down to who has more guns, and I think Appalachia does.
Like I said earlier on Billy's post earlier in the week, where it was, what was it? You said there was a time and point in which you were willing to give your life for your country, and now you're at the point where you would give your life to protect your family from what your country's become.
Yes.
And, like, you all know me. I went into law enforcement. I was a dog cop. I didn't serve overseas or in the military, but I still swore an oath to the Constitution, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. And as much as Simon and I sometimes go back and forth with Appalachia becoming an independent nation or staying within the Union, I still think that the Constitution is a very important document, and I believe in America at its core, what it was supposed to be because of that document. The problem isn't that, though. The problem is that America kind of gave up on all of us if our elected leaders are a representation of what America is today.
I guess to more clarify my point, like, the Constitution is fantastic. I think the Constitution is a solid plan A, but solid plan B is, come and take it. You know what I mean? But when it comes down to just, you can't trust a piece of paper to guarantee your God-given rights. You have to fight for them sometimes. And I hope that they're not dumb enough to fire the first shot, because I'm not going to be dumb enough to fire the first shot. But when they're dumb enough to come do that, then I think that's when the people are going to have to stand up and just deal with it, and put it down.
Oh yeah, you got to follow Captain Parker, from the Revolution. stand your ground, don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have a war, let it begin here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Constitution, it's kind of like a fence. What is a fence going to do, or what is a no gun sign going to do? It's going to keep an honest man honest. You have to have faith, just like anything. You have to have faith in it. You have to have enough people to have faith in this document and all get behind it and trust it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have honest people, then it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. They're just going to go around it. And they're going to, we saw Cuomo do that during COVID. The New York Supreme Court would strike down one of his edicts, and he would just turn around the next day and write a different one with a couple of different words and have to send that all the way back through the system. That's fraud. That's the governor of a state basically sidestepping the Supreme Court. That's tyranny. They should have ran him out of office that very moment. Now they're just glorifying. They're giving an Emmy. What are we doing here? When those kind of people are allowed to run scot free, we have a serious problem in this country. And that's what they do.
Well, if you look at just how much the Constitution has died within the last 24 years since 9/11, the Patriot Act alone just butchered most of your human rights. If you look at how they used the Espionage Act from World War I, they basically just turned Edward Snowden into a non-person overnight with that. And it's just most of your, the Bill of Rights is already slaughtered to pieces. The FCC constantly attacks the First Amendment. The Second Amendment is always under attack. The Third Amendment, not so much. But, even your Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights, they are just constantly being like, oh, well, you can't have a jury here, but you can get a summary judgment and completely ruin Alex Jones over here.
Extenuating circumstances.
Exactly. And it's absolutely, your constitutional rights are already gone for the most part. And it's just, I'm really pleased about a lot of these Supreme Court decisions that are coming down, but ultimately it's going to come down to what the people are willing to enforce, because the government is utterly corrupt.
I'm going to bring up a quote because I had it written down and I remembered it now. And you sparked my memory by mentioning Lysander Spooner. Without his consent having ever been asked, a man finds himself environed by a government that he cannot resist, a government that forces him to pay money, render service, and forego the exercise of many of his natural rights under peril of weighty punishments. He sees, too, that other men practice this tyranny over him by use of the ballot. He sees further that if he will but use the ballot himself, he will have some chance of relieving himself from the tyranny of others by subjecting them to his own. He finds himself without his consent so situated that if he uses the ballot box, he will become a master. And if he doesn't use it, he will become a slave. And unfortunately, 200 some odd years later.
The only issue that presents now is the fact that you can't trust any of these elections. So even if we were to find really great local candidates to get into office, or even a great national candidate to get into president or senate, they could just rig these elections at the drop of a hat. With these machines and everything else. So we're really up against it here with everything. And they've shredded the Constitution, but for there to be a new world order, you can't have a standing United States of America as it has stood for the past 250 years. So this is what they want. They want the destruction of the United States. So it's part of the plan, and the best that we can do is just be prepared. And like someone was saying earlier, be prepared to take care of your own little communities and just survive with your family. That's the best advice that we can give right to each other right now. So, and that's one thing that the hurricane has kind of shown, that this region comes together like nowhere else. So,
well, if you look, like, one of the funniest things in cinema I've ever seen was during that movie Gangs of New York. He was like, I voted twice already. And he's like, you think that's doing your civic duty? And he's like, get your ass. And he made me go vote like 15 more times.
That's great. I was just watching it like 2 nights ago with my wife, and they're like, oh, he's already won by 6,000 votes. Well, what's the problem? Well, it's 4,000 votes more than we have actually printed. Well, and then he tells them to go make it by like 10,000 votes or something. unfortunately, that movie holds a lot of truth to it. Exactly what Stuart
Yeah,
was saying.
especially like it shows how like Abraham Lincoln was really kind of a psychotic tyrant to begin with, because like he ordered the Navy to rain down artillery fire on the 5 Points, New York, and that actually happened, like just to break up the riots.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, look at the recent court decisions not allowing some of these states to get rid of their bloated voter rolls. I know they're trying to do it a little late in the game, but when a court is telling a state that you can't get people off the voter rolls that clearly shouldn't be there, I mean that's all you need to see for the fact that they can rig this whenever they want to, because that's how they do the steal, is by having bloated voter rolls and then just assigning ballots to people on the rolls. I mean, and then you've got this whole new thing with now they're going after all these people outside the United States and getting them to vote and allowing them to vote in states where they never lived without any sort of like ID check or anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the fact that in Virginia, Tim Kaine is the one that actually made that law go into effect. And now his party is the one suing Glenn Youngkin for enforcing Tim Kaine's law. I mean,
yeah,
we already knew that they were a party of contradictions, but it's nice sometimes to see it play out in reality.
Hey, Chip, can you hear me now?
I can actually. That fixed it for me. Appreciate you doing that.
Me having to step in and save the day once again.
Oh,
and I did it like in most cases by removing myself from the situation. So
how magnanimous of you, Billy.
Well, not all heroes wear capes. Some wear sweatpants and barbecue shirts,
and some wear mullet top hats.
Absolutely. When it comes to these migrants, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, as well, everybody says that it's going to really hamper his administration if Trump wins, and he'll be bogged down trying to figure out a way to remedy this, and it's going to be impossible. Honestly, I'm sitting there thinking about it, and it's really not that hard of a situation to solve whatsoever. Just go through there, say what country are you from, separate them by country, contact that country, say you have this many people, you're going to send plane after plane after plane until every single one of them are back, or we're going to embargo the shit out of your country for the next 50 years. And I guarantee you, and probably most of those countries we also send aid to, that we would no longer do. If Trump comes in and says, have those planes lined up, you're going to be here. If you're here, you're going to be at this base. You can have them all gone in 5 months. 5 months. I mean, is that far-fetched?
I mean, it took the 101st Airborne 10 days to drive 300 miles. So I think it's kind of far-fetched.
I'm saying under a Trump administration, if Trump comes in and says, we already got them in a blockade, just whatever country, no more. No more. You come get every single one of these people, or no more aid, and we're going to put every embargo we can on your country. They would have their military flying in, is what I'm saying. Their planes, their military flying in, private planes, jets, whatever.
I think the problem is that, we've already seen what the left's reaction is to a Trump presidency. And, he can say, hey, the Border Patrol, you're going to do your job again. You're going to prevent people from coming in, and you're going to go into communities to, find out the illegals and send them back to where you come from. And you're going to have local, progressivist jurisdictions declaring themselves sanctuary cities, refusing to work with CPB. I mean, take Virginia. It's a perfect example of it. Right now in the Commonwealth, if a person comes up as, under the legal definition, an undocumented person, and he's getting arrested, they contact CPB, and CPB has 24 hours to come pick him up. And most of the time, the reason they get released is that the only crime that they're able to be held on is being here illegally. But CPB they just never send anybody. And it's not because they're getting orders on high. It's just they don't have personnel to do it because the border's overrun still.
Well, right now they're actually busy forming a human chain and passing along a piece of wood one by one to help them with the relief efforts. So that's where they're at. If they're there, I don't know who's at the border, but yeah, it's interesting because that's going to be an issue regardless of who's president. What are we going to do with these people? We can't sustain this. We can't keep up multiple wars and social security and health care and public school system and everything under the blue moon and keep up 40 million people. Something's going to have to give.
I think that they're going to get their war. And the best thing you could do is say, all right, who here has been in the country less than 6 months? Congratulations. Here's a rifle. No, you don't get armor.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's the ultimate plan is cannon fodder, sending them over and just wave after wave, fighting the Russians. I wonder if it gets to that point, or sending them to Israel. Somebody just released a document today, a whistleblower with Israel's plans to airstrike Iran. And
with nukes. Yeah, I saw that shit.
You want to talk about, John McCain getting a boner 6 feet under. I mean,
be careful, he's going to poke your eye out with that thing.
yeah, eye patch McCain, good Lord, he probably can barely contain himself right now. And that's, we're staring down World War III on multiple fronts right now. I suppose maybe they send a lot of these immigrants over there, which then again, that's not really fair to them. That's kind of a shit deal. As a human, I gotta have a little bit of resistance to that. It's not necessarily these people's fault that their governments emptied them out of prisons and sent them on planes over here. They're just, I don't particularly care for them to be here, but at the same time, I don't lay a lot of the blame on them. Most of them are just going along with the flow.
I don't know if there's a solution to the the larger problem. Is the illegal immigration pouring into the country? I think if there is a solution, I don't think any of us necessarily have really the means to come up with it. I think localism, regionalism is the name of the game. It should be the name of the game. You're a great example of it. What y'all have done to shed a light on Rocky Mountain, everything going on there, and trying to just rebuild the community. I'm trying to kind of do the same here up in Floyd. We have to rebuild local communities and economies because the government's most effective weapon is the monetary system. And, they will do everything they can to destroy the small town community in favor of their giant IKEA-like building that they're trying to forge for the country.
And I'm going to interject here and welcome Matthew Rife to the conversation. Good to have you, Matt.
Hey, guys. How's everything going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, Matt. Welcome.
We're good. You just missed Simon. We had him for about an hour. He's still getting through some treatments, but it's good to have him for a little bit anyway.
Chip, Stuart, either of y'all still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I was just making sure my my thing didn't crash again.
Well, Chip just jumped back in. If you didn't hear him, he introduced Matthew. If you heard him, then you should be good. It's weird because I had these problems a couple weeks ago and everybody laughed at me. Now all y'all are having the problems and it's pretty frustrating. You can't hear one or two people speaking and it kind of throws everything off.
Elon's spending too much time with Trump.
Oh, me. But yeah, something I kind of want to shift off to real quick. Maybe somebody has this answer. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but whatever happened with Tim Pool last night, or is his show done for? Because if that's the case, then there's a serious vacuum to fill with most successful podcasts located in Appalachia. So I think that's something we need to consider. I hope it doesn't go anywhere. I really like to get
what happened. What actually happened last?
He's not. What's going on is, well, he's run into the same problems I have within management and everything, and having to have your hand in every single thing or it doesn't get done. So he's probably doing what I'm doing, and I have a headhunter that's coming here to find a new CEO of the company. Not a CEO, a COO, to where I can still do founder stuff. But he did announce tonight, he's like, I've been working all this time, me and my girlfriend, and he announced that he's getting married and he's having a kid. So he wants to step away from the business a little bit, but I guess they're pulling back some. Like Hannah Claire was fired, but I don't know. I guess he's pulling back some, getting some outside help, and he's going to rebuild with a better structure.
Wait, she was fired? Because all I saw all over the comment section today, because I was just kind of interested in what people were saying. Sometimes, but they were all saying, "Oh, she'd be a great host to fill in, and this and this and this," and they axed her.
Well, This was after Tim was already on and announced this, that I saw a post from Hannah saying, hey, does anybody need a podcast co-host? And wasn't, what's her name? McDonald, whatever her name. What?
Cassandra?
Yeah. Didn't she work for Tim on the news portion? Because it sounds like she's not going to be working there either. So he may be closing the news portion down.
Oh, well, I mean, she also does the booking for his show as well, for the nightly show. She does all the booking for that. So I wonder if I don't know. That's interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And, a lot of this is speculation, guys. The stuff that I know is the stuff that I was saying. Like, this is what he said.
Well, I enjoy listening to the show. I don't agree with everything everybody says on that show at all times, and that's probably how it should be for everybody. But for one, Tim generously dropped $3,000 into my Venmo sometime last year. That really helped out the podcast an awful lot. So I've got an awful lot of respect for him. I've got respect for him because although he's not from Appalachia, he has moved his business to the mountains. He is bringing cultural awareness to the area. He's bringing business into the area. He's getting people who otherwise wouldn't spend time in the mountains to come to the area. That's exactly what our goals are. The difference between us and Tim Pool is he has moved to the mountains and he's bringing a lot of money and he's bringing a lot of influence and he's bringing a lot of connections outside. We have all the connections inside. We just don't have the money yet, which, by the way, y'all can help us. We just became eligible for subscriptions. So if you go to our profile right up there at the top, it's only $3 a month. Do it for Dale. Or you can go to our patreon.com/get on tap. That's $3 a month as well. Our subscribers, we're going to start doing a whole lot more cool stuff, but a lot of them get a chance to come hang out with us for shows. We bring Matthew back up, come up there and listen to him, meet him. He'll answer questions for you. I mean, we have a lot of fun. There's a handful of people that have been to some of our shows, and some of them turn to events and they can speak for you. It's always a good time, and you meet a lot of great people. So support us if you can. We can always use that. But I kind of like his model. I like what he's doing, and he's coming from an area and we're coming from a different area. Both can work. So we're trying to build from the inside where he's coming in from the outside. But I've got a ton of respect for him, and I thoroughly enjoy a lot of the guests he bring on and their back and forth. So I hope they figure it out.
I'll admit there's really only one podcast that I worry about, and it's yours. Not that I'm worried you'll do anything bad, just that I'm worried why I didn't upload an episode, and then I realized it's not upload day.
Well, that's why we need to get more subscribers and start working our way towards some bigger, which we are. We're going to go video here soon. We're going to add some stuff like that. We'll have more clips. We'll be, getting Simon animated on a clip is, the kind of things that legends are made of. So we're going to start having a lot of, and that's the most important thing we have fun with. Like, have fun interacting with people. I have fun meeting people and a lot of the people that have the same drive as we do. That's why some of y'all are here. That's how Matthew is. That's how you are, Smokey. Chip, everybody's adds a little bit something different to the table. So I think we got something good going here. And I don't know. I'm interested to see how the whole temple thing shakes out. But if they fired those people, well, I guess he really is cleaning house and he was serious.
My guess is that with the kind of wife and baby thing, that he kind of did a little bit of looking at his corporate structure and realized there were some areas to trim the fat a little bit maybe, and to scale back in a few areas and still be able to make the same amount of money and have the same sort of impact. So that would be my guess as to what's kind of going on with that. But you never know. I mean, like old Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown, and it seemed like he had a good thing going with Luke, with We Are Change, or whatever Luke's thing is now, and that ended pretty abruptly. So you never know, I guess.
Did that end?
Oh, did that end? I didn't know that ended.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I guess like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I'm not sure exactly what the cause was, but yeah, Clint was on, and then all of a sudden he was done. And I know that Clint does that other podcast, Tower Gang, with like Top Lobster and some other guys, and they've talked about it for the past 2 weeks. That I guess they've kind of been going at each other on Twitter some. So,
well, Matthew, you've been down there on their shows. You know those guys, don't you?
Yeah, I didn't even I had no idea that they parted ways. Yeah, so from what I know, Luke, he was doing the We Are Change, and then Clint was doing Liberty Lockdown, And then they joined forces to be able to do the best political show ever on Rumble. And I don't know why the change or anything, but I didn't even know that they had parted ways. That's funny, though. I mean, and honestly,
Well,
if they're going back and forth online, they're probably just shit talking. There's probably no drama there. But, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, Clint was still doing Liberty Lockdown and coming out with episodes. Yeah, maybe not as frequently as he had in the past, but so he was still doing that. But it's interesting. I've heard some other people talk about going on Luke's show, and maybe you know this, Matt, but like I guess when you go into the studio, he kind of slides a laminated piece of paper to you with all the things you're not allowed to say because he gets all the YouTube money. So and
Yeah,
I think that's been an issue for some people.
No, that's not. Listen, honestly, that's a little bit ridiculous. That because somebody brought that up to me too. It's like, hey, listen, when you go on there, they're going to tell you this and that, and it's nothing unreasonable. It's like, don't come on there and just start saying fuck this and try not to curse. Don't say faggot. Like it's normal things like that because
My favorite F word, man.
Yeah, every F word. It came every F word. But it's because it will knock down monetization. And then it's like once we go over to Rumble, everything's cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, even Tim Pool has said multiple times he's cut shows right in the middle if somebody violates a YouTube policy, and I get arguments on both sides of it. One side will say, "Well, you're self-censoring and you're not really edgy and this and this and this," but I see his point about it too. It's like, well, we're reaching millions of people through this platform. And if we can tiptoe around the rules and people still get the message and we get paid for it, why would we? Axe ourselves in half. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. So, I mean, I get it. I understand if you want to go on that platform. I mean, we're probably going to have to do that when we go to video is not talk. And the reason being is some of our shows that none have ever been video other than the Zoom ones. We have talked about vaccines and things to that nature, and YouTube, Stuart, you've been on these shows, and YouTube, where we upload through the RSS feed our shows to YouTube so you can go listen to them there, but you can't, there's nothing to watch. They've erased some of our shows and given me a strike already for things they went back and found.
Yeah, and
when you said that the other day, I saw that in the text message thread. It didn't surprise me because of how openly we talk about some of that stuff that I didn't know you were uploading them to YouTube. So, if I had known that, maybe we should, come up with, or if we do try to get a YouTube channel going, we're going to have to come up with some code words or something for a way to get around it if you want to stay on YouTube. Which, look, I do think it's important to stay on YouTube, but I also think that it's also important to not talk about certain things, so you've got to figure out a way to still talk about those things and I guess stick to their TOS somehow. I mean,
it's not really that hard. And overall, listen, if I had a show and that was my income and that was my business, I grew up in an area to where you're not going to go around my grandmother and curse without me telling you not to because of respect. So, I mean, I get it. If YouTube doesn't want that on their platform, if they're like, you can't say faggot, can't say fuck, or we will lessen the money that we pay you, then fine. If they call it self-censorship, fine. I call it respect for a platform. But at the same time, the Ian Carroll has done very well on TikTok, and so have I. I've got almost 200,000 followers on TikTok, been running my business on there, and they haven't struck me down eating, even though the stuff that I talk about. And, like abortion, a lot of people, instead of saying the word abortion, those are shmortion. And because it's AI that tracks all this stuff. Tim's show would be monitored a little bit heavier, but at the same time, you can get a message across without being crass.
Yeah, and we've got to be ready to do that. We've got to have, I think it is important to be uncensored. So, maybe we do have a second channel on Rumble or something like that. But it is important to hit the mainstream sites where we can, and we do have to work around things a little bit to be heard. But I think having both of those is important. You don't want to leave either of the.
Well, I was just going to agree with you. It's all in the sidetrack. And Billy and I were chatting about this beforehand. I had a post on Instagram that got censored, and I can't collaborate with people. And it was the Thursday after the hurricane, and I was just doing a list of things that people needed. This back when it was still warm, so it was like bug spray and stuff. And I thought it got censored because I said that FEMA was just a bunch of fat lesbians in polos. No, it turns out I got censored because I said that people need EpiPens, so please donate them. And pushing pharmaceuticals, apparently.
Yep. Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, and that's something I got hit on TikTok for, because I used to refill my printer ink cartridges with like the old school syringe thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it
Yeah.
showed that, and it was called drug paraphernalia, and it stopped alive.
No,
So,
Lord.
and listen, I don't want kids to see needles laying around either. I mean, I think these are good things.
To an extent, but like there's a common sense level of like
I get it's AI.
Yeah. It's an imperfect system.
Do you guys remember when Periscope was on here?
I remember, but I wasn't on the platform then.
Okay, so
Yeah, I remember Periscope.
so Periscope, it was Twitter's largest acquisition. It was like $100 million, the largest acquisition by any corporation at that time. And I think Rogan was the only one that come close to it after that. But they bought it. It was a streaming app. They only had like 6 to 8 employees, and people were streaming on there, and a lot of child pornography got streamed on there. A lot of pornography did altogether. And it was really bad for the fucking I mean, they ended up fucking themselves over. They started embezzling money. There were hundreds of millions of dollars just fucking taken away from the creators, and the creators left. But all of these apps go through similar processes. Like you'll notice, like on Spaces, people that's been around each other for a long time have turned into drama queens, and they'll sit there and argue instead of doing what they do. And then the professional people will leave and go somewhere else. But Periscope was like this, and I wish that there was AI tracking on Periscope to where when all that pornography and shit was on there, that they did take it off. So that's part of the common sense too. Like bars on a window, if you live in the hood, it may keep strangers out, but if that house catches on fire, it's going to keep you inside. So I mean, it's a ebb and flow on both, in my opinion.
Yep. Off topic, real quick, Matthew. I'm interested to a message. I was going to send you one tonight, actually, at some point, but now that you're here, we are coming down to Tazewell County this weekend. If you'll be around, I'm thinking if I used my wits, I could probably sneak around and get away from the wife there for a couple hours.
I wish I was going to be around, but I'm going back down to Florida. I'm actually going to the Nephilim Death Squad's comedy show, so I'll be seeing Clint down there.
Excellent. Well, that was also just a test. I think I see my wife in here listening. I didn't see any laugh reactions or anything from her, so I was just trying to see if she was paying attention. But
I'm glad to hear you're still alive.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how you get away with that, Billy.
Well, look, when you oh, never mind. I just got a text message. Yeah. Anyway, well, yeah, it's a shame we'll miss you. I think it's her high school graduation or something. So I'm going to go down there and have the mullet styled back a bit, and maybe put on my favorite Toby Keith outfit and start singing "How Do You Like Me Now?" Although it's not my class reunion, so it'd be kind of awkward. But
just showing up to a random one.
Yeah. Just walk around like I know everybody, I guess.
Which school is
Richlands High
Oh,
School.
you're fine. Just paint your face, make yourself look retarded. You'll fit right in.
Well, I don't got to try very hard. Well, Matthew, you missed a little bit of our conversation before you jumped in here, so we'll go ahead and get your opinion on it real quick. But what are your thoughts on the election coming up and Trump going on Rogan and that kind of stuff? I mean, is this in your opinion the biggest election in anybody's lifetime?
Okay, I think it's the biggest election in my lifetime right now, because I remember being in school in Whitewood and having to watch the news about Florida rehand counting these ballots 20 times. Every election this is the biggest election of our lifetime. The biggest thing that I've realized, you only know what you know. Like, we don't know what it's like to live horse and buggy time, to where you had a male suitor call your fucking driveway or whatever. We don't know that. Like, we live up underneath a lot of restrictions now than what we did in the past. Right? So kids in the future, when they're born into this stuff, they don't know better. And, I wish that we didn't have taxes and all this other shit and it was a different time. But at the end of the day, it hasn't killed me to have restrictions. Now, I do want children to have better freedoms, and I think Trump would be good. But I also see Trump as being a bit of a Judas goat, because he had more gun restrictions during his time than what Biden did. Biden actually loosened up the gun restrictions. So you got to I'm full libertarian on this shit. Like, let's not vote. Let's work with local community government. Let people govern themselves a little bit. I want a lesser federal government. I don't want their taxes. Let them do their fucking job and stay in their lane. And so when you say biggest election, I think every one of them's pretty large because the more energy that people put behind it and the more energy and attention that you give it, the stronger they get. And a perfect example is sports. Look at the NBA versus the WNBA. It depends on how much effort and energy you put into something, and it lets them have that control. So I do my best to stay out. I think that the Trump or the Rogan thing is going to be hilarious. I like Trump. He's a hell of a comedian. I think that Kamala's fucking hilarious too because she's retarded. So if she goes on Rogan, that'll be great. I don't know, man. It's big election. I just keep on hearing it and it's overdone. So
Yeah, every next election is the biggest one. So, hey guys, I'm gonna hop off. I gotta get my little one to bed here. But Matt, it was kind of nice to talk to you. I'm a huge Rife fan. I've been researching the whole Rife technology stuff for over 10 years now. So just a pleasure to get to talk to you, and I'll probably send you a message at some point and kind of see what you got going on, and because I'm super into what you're doing, and I think we need more people like you out there. So
yeah, dude, hit me up anytime. I appreciate that. And anybody's welcome to come to my office and use the Rife machines. Simon has one. If any of you guys think, oh well, is there any real world cases you guys can ask? And Simon used a Rife machine for a while. I think he's still using it. So, but yeah, anybody can hit me up. I'll answer any questions you guys want.
perfect, man. Thanks. Later, Billy. Later, Chip. Appreciate it, guys.
Take care, Stuart.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I recommend
Yep.
anybody that's listening to this through the podcast or listening to us live right now, go follow Matthew and pay attention to what he does. He can probably explain it a whole lot better than I can, but it's a way to remove yourself from the grasps of corporations when it comes to your health. And Chip was sitting in there with us. Stuart actually missed that show. Stuart's up for a lot of shows. I really wanted him up for that show because he's probably one of the more researched of the bunch when it comes to what you had going. I thought he would have brought some, but we'll get y'all together soon. But Chip was up there, and Matthew walked out and said, "In 2 months, call me back. You'll be cancer free." To Simon, and Simon called me about a month and a half later and said, "The treatment doesn't kill it; it just shrinks it." He said it's gone. And about a month and a half, 2 months later. So anybody out there, encourage you, go give Rife Technology a follow and follow what he's doing. Go to his websites, and it's phenomenal stuff. And he reaches back out to you, talks to you. And I've been down there to visit his office before, and he's come up to the studio, and it's another Appalachian based business that we should all be getting behind and supporting. We got to support each other. So I encourage you, everybody, get out there, follow each other on X. If they're an Appalachian based account and they're not completely full of themselves, do it. We the more we're in each other's feeds, the more we're feeding off of each other. We're finding more deals, farmers markets, produce, meats, whatever's being. I mean, we can set ourselves up in a parallel economy. So Appalachia's Matthew's another fine one to follow. So we do appreciate all he's done for us.
Hey man, we need to start putting some stuff together, like just big shows like what you were talking about. I'd love to be able to sponsor some, come out and have a good time. Because, like you said, I really think that building up the Appalachias, it's going to be beneficial, especially now that, since 2020, we've been seeing people leave cities. And even around here, like I was lucky to find a house to buy. I mean, there's not many houses, but I was lucky to find one. So I think that if we start putting some money and effort in it over the next couple of years, start throwing parties, getting people to come out, that we could actually grow the Appalachias without the federal government.
Well, that's a big part of how we got to where we were at. We would have a couple of key guests here and there to come up, and we throw big parties and shindigs and events or whatever. And Smokey was our first real one. Him and Chip both. That's actually where we met Chip. Invited him up. We had Spike up. We had Henry Law from the Moonshiners, and we had a really good time. And that brought a bunch of people together that now connect and hang out and talk and share ideas. I just texted Spike today. I was hoping he was going to jump on here, but he's pretty busy. That's exactly what we need to be doing. You know, we had another big Christmas show. Smokey got to come up to. We didn't even get a chance to get him on the mic for that one. I mean, we had Chris Hodges, who started Floyd Fest. We had Crawford and Power. We had Kobe Helms, two bands that are going big places. I mean, it's always a lot of fun because everybody, we're very nitpicky about who we bring to some degree, to where, like, you're not going to fit in, you're just not going to fit in. But just about anybody can. You just can't be a complete rube. And it's always a good time. Once we get the cameras going, and you've been to Simon's Cabin, it's just a phenomenal place to have events. We're going to start, turning almost every show into an event. We're going to have a lot of fun. And so, yeah, we're excited about getting you back up there as often as we can.
Well, when are you doing the cameras? I'm more than willing to come up and help out with structuring all that, wiring everything up.
We're now Simon's, he's got to go back up north for a couple of more days, but now he's back in. He's kind of recovering a little bit, and the baby's still 5 weeks old. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll have the cameras ready to go, and maybe we'll do our Christmas special. Will be our first big show we do, and that was a lot of fun last year. Maybe that'll be our first video show sometime in December. So I'm hoping here very, very soon. We've got a production guy lined up. We've got camera guy. Stuart's very proficient in that stuff. Shout out to Drew. He's down in Charlotte. He handles a lot of our IT stuff, and we've got a phenomenal team in place. Just whenever we finally get to pull the trigger and make everything work, we're going to be rocking and rolling. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that's why I encourage them to subscribe to us as well. Like, we interact with our subscribers. They hit us up. We let them know places we're going to be. They come out. Eventually, they're coming up here to the big VIP parties and hanging out and getting to meet some of these people. And once in a blue moon, they'll come across somebody and they'll offer a service to somebody they would have otherwise had a chance to meet, and now they're bartering and stuff. So when you're subscribing to us, you're not just throwing money at us just because you think we're cool, but you're helping build something. We take that money and put it right back into the show. We put it right back in our communities, trying to build and turn Appalachia into a place. Hey, come visit, come spend your money, come hang out, come have fun. We're a lot of fun, and then go home. And I think we have wonderful possibility to do that with people like you and Chip and Smokey and other ones out there that we're starting to piece together and network with. All the people out there listening to us right now, they're constantly commenting and sharing their support, and I'll try and get back to as many people as I can, because look, I appreciate everybody who's a part of this.
Well, the mountains have so much culture, man. And I think that it would be easy to put stuff together. Even like, I live near Back of the Dragon, like the old cars and just the drives through the mountains. It wouldn't be hard just to put things together like a month in advance and be like, come on out. We'll ride Back of the Dragon, go down Tazewell, have a beer, do whatever. And also, if you know of any land for sale up there, I'd be into getting maybe 100 acres, turning it around. Because, Owen Benjamin's got a really nice setup. I went there. He invited me to come as a guest, and I went there. I felt bad because it was hard on me. It was hard travel. But I had a good time. He has a really great group of people. They're very self-sufficient. They have a good time, and he's really built something nice, and it's reflective of how we live. So I go out there. I'm like, oh, this is like a high school fair. And not high school's bad. I'm just saying, it's how we grew up. But I think it'd be pretty easy to get something together like that. Start hosting things often throughout the year.
There is 94 acres literally across my dirt road that's for sale right now, Matt.
How much is it?
He wants a lot for it. He wants $730 for it.
Dear God, in the mountains?
Yeah, it's part of a 300-acre farm. It's under a conservation easement, and it's only rated.
That's all usable land. Okay, so I'm guessing, does he have trees on it? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like shit land, dude.
No, it's a pretty property. It's got part of Laurel Creek cuts through it for about, gosh, I want to say maybe 20 acres. It's a cattle farm originally, so he's got a mix of wood and pasture. I saw that it was up for sale. I was like, oh, sweetheart, maybe we could buy something of it. And I looked at it, I was like, nope, not in this lifetime with that friggin' price that he wants. But I'm over in Floyd, so I think a lot of the New York and California money has been influencing the market.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's land you're looking for up here, I mean, they're pretty selective, but if you come across the right people, they want to sell to the right people. They want to keep things going here. So, I mean, we could definitely put you in touch with people up here in this neck of the woods. Kind would be a perfect kind of place for something like you're describing.
Yeah, Matthew's speaking our language with the the get-togethers and the parties. I mean, that's what we've been working on, and that works really well there. We've already seen it.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, I got you back.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, dude. $800,000 for land like that? That's pretty wild. I mean, I know there's better deals. That guy just knows what he has. Probably add a little to it too.
I think what it is he's selling that 90. It's 394 acres total. He's selling 94 of it. And from my understanding, the guy's like getting ready to go into hospice, and I don't think his kids want the land, so I think he's trying to sell off a portion of it to pay taxes on it until the grandkids can inherit the land, which is a shame because it's a really nice cattle pasture area.
He doesn't really want to sell it, it sounds like. Yeah, what I've always wanted to do, well, what I've wanted to do over the last 10 years, before I even started Rife Tech, is I was looking for land to be able to buy. Actually, the idea came right at COVID because everybody was leaving the cities. Buy land, set it up, and be able to get people to come out to the land, show them how to, build a cabin, show them how to cut trees, show them how to garden, set them up, let them stay out there for a year. At a 6-month mark, they have 6 months to put their house on the market and sell it if they want to do that, or they can go back home to the cities. And I think it'd be good income, and it could build up property really well around these areas.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. My wife and I, we've got just under 9 acres, and we want to build a cabin on our property, but we want to build it in like traditional, colonial era style, using building methods from back then, and kind of use it as like a learning tool in general. But that's a great thing, like you said, like have a place where people can basically learn the skills that we as humans forgot.
I did that down in Kentucky, and man, it was the most rewarding thing. 40 acres of land there, and I built a cabin off the trees that stood on the land. Sadly, my grandfather just died, and my aunt and uncle, they're selling all of my grandfather's property. It's horrible. All of the land.
Oh man.
Yeah, me and my family's put work into for like the last 20 plus years. They're like, well, we need an addition on our house and we're going to sell it. Like, they're just assholes. So I'm looking for land to be able to build that back. And, I ran 3 springs on that land. I drew the water out of the ground with my tech. So any land that's in a mountain, I could have running water put on it.
I'm going to have to talk to you about that because I absolutely need to. I'm in the process of trying to figure out how I can get this ram pump to give me enough water on my property.
Yeah, so ram pumps, I think it goes every 7 feet that it drops. It can go up a foot. There's a couple of things you can add to that. Honestly, if you have like sunlight out there, you can run a little bit of solar, and then for every 2-foot drop, you can run 1 foot up. So
Yeah.
there's lots of different things now to be able to add to stuff like that that's still free.
Yeah, I was looking into a bunch of USDA grants, and I was trying to get one for them to fence in my property, and because we thought we ran up right to our little creek, and they came out and surveyed, and apparently I am 1.5 feet off of the property line for the creek, so no free fences from the U.S. government for me, unfortunately.
I mean, if you need a cheap fence built, I heard that Billy's going to start this new program to earn some revenue. It's called Rent a Brit. And after Simon gets better, you rent like $5 a day.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I mean, they've both seen the hill in my backyard, so I don't think either of them would want to have to walk up and down that with fencing stuff.
What I did, I have in my backyard, like I don't have much property or anything, but in my backyard, it goes straight uphill. And I bought a Chinese Mini X. Like, it's not even like a Mini X. It's even smaller than a Mini X.
So one
I
of
got
those
it for like,
cap ones?
yeah, it's like a 1-ton.
Yeah.
Yep. I got one of those for like $3,000-$4,000, I think. And I'm digging out my own backyard with that. They're just so cheap and so handy in these mountains. You kind of can't beat them.
I was looking at them recently because so I've got 250 feet of elevation gain on my property, and too poor to afford my own full size equipment. But Carter Cat was foolish enough to rent me an excavator back in, God, what was it? June, right before my daughter was, or I guess technically end of May, right before my daughter was born. And I had like 3 hours of operation on one previously, so they drop it off. And they're like, "Hey, here you go. We'll see you in like 4 days. I was like, all right, cool. And spent like 10 minutes just moving around. And then I think when they came back, I had like 56 hours on the clock on the machine. But I got a hell of a lot done with it. So I could definitely use a mini X too.
Yeah, they're definitely worth having. I can send you a link. I got mine. Honestly, I went on AliExpress and I found it. I got all the different head attachments, everything. I'm getting ready to build a retaining wall just by using this. I mean, it's a 420cc motor in it. It's a ripoff of the Honda.
Yeah.
Same one that they have at Harbor Freight, just rebranded again. I mean, it's honestly, dude, it's so worth having one of these, even if you don't have anything else, just this.
Hell yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna look into that now because I saw one like I said the other day, and I was like, I've ordered plenty of things off of Temu when they arrive, and it's not what you actually ordered. So I was wondering about that with the mini X's.
Well, ultimately, what we're trying to do with this whole thing is get to the point where you don't necessarily need to be going and renting that kind of stuff because we've got tons of people who have that kind of stuff. And as you build these networks, everybody has a little bit of something they bring to the table. Like there really ain't much equipment wise we can't get a hold of, especially when you're number one podcast in the German Baptist community. We've got everything under the sun at our fingertips, and people offer those things up to friends, and we take care of each other when those moments come because we may need something. Never ask for anything back, never ask for money. You do it because of your friends, but everybody offers a little something. So, that's why we're trying to encourage people to build networks with our local community and go to your churches and go to your community events and go to your festivals and stuff that are put on and meet people and talk to them and figure out where your food's coming from and buy your food from those. Just simple, small things like that. But ultimately, you get to the point with somebody where it's like, hey, got to clear off some land. Well, hey, I got a bulldozer. Let me just come up there. I can knock it out in half a day. And Amos is the kind of guy that's going to do something like that for you. And we got a ton of those people. So it's very important.
Well, since you brought him up, how's Amos doing?
I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks myself. We've been so busy, and he came over here and helped me paint for a couple of nights straight, and I think I wore him down. So he probably hoping,
I bet you did.
hoping I don't call him and ask him for any more help anytime soon because
he's probably slammed right now into harvest season.
Yeah. I mean, he's always slammed. He goes out of his way to find extra work to do. That's just kind of the person he is, and Matthew. To kind of be more specific, we're just trying to just get our sponsors squared away and get that stuff squared away so we can get the cameras because we've already got the team lined up. When the cameras go on, it's just all a matter of getting all of our stuff set up to YouTube and kind of figuring out the route we want to take and how we want to operate. But once the cameras come, I mean, we got guys ready to do the clips and send them out there in clips channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm hoping the next couple of weeks, but it's been kind of dragging along and getting a little frustrated at it now, but we'll get there when we get there. That's all meant to be how it's supposed to be.
Oh, dude, let me know anytime you need me, and I'll ride up. I mean, I'm looking pretty free. I haven't been scheduling anything, so on the weekends I'm free now. I can hop on the bike and ride right up there.
Yeah, we just got we've got a lot of awesome guests lined up. We're just waiting for the cameras, and whenever we figure out with the sponsorship and get that thing going and make it happen and they can pay for the cameras, we can get the ball rolling. But whenever we do, hopefully it'll take a couple of days to set up and we'll have a date. But I'm hoping maybe the first big one, we might have a show before, but I'm hoping the first big event to officially kick it off will maybe be a Christmas special, and we'll see if Spike can come up and obviously, make sure it's a weekend. Chip is obviously there, and you will get Henry to come up. We'll get somebody to come up and play some music and get somebody from town to come up and do the catering, and everybody will chip in a little bit and we'll all have a blast.
Well, let me ask an important question real quick. How does Simon heat that cabin?
Oh, how does anybody heat a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains?
I think we got a good old wood stove inside of it.
Oh, and it gets toasty in there too.
Okay.
My first time coming on the show, Chip, was God, was it December? No,
It was like
December or
March.
January. It was middle of winter.
February,
And,
maybe.
I remember I dressed because y'all were like, "Oh yeah, we'll be in a cabin." I'm like, "Oh good, I'll throw on my long johns," and I was sweating by the end of the time.
Well, that's what I
like
probably
to
had a little bit to do with all the liquor we drank, and I think that show went on for almost 5 hours. I had to cut it down, edit, down to just to get it like 4 hours and 15 minutes, and then split it up into two because we went on forever.
Yeah, that was a long recording session.
Well, I took somebody up there that's from California, and I was like, yeah. And she looked at the cabin. She's like, this is so nice. This is really cool. And I like, I'm like, yeah, there's probably slaves that were living in there. She was freaking out afterward. He's like, I can't believe I went into a slave house. I was like, I don't know if it's true, but maybe.
I think Simon and I talked.
There's some truth to some of
I
it.
think it was a former slave that became a freed woman, and it was her cabin. It's something like that. When I was talking,
and it was like a family. Wasn't there like 13 of them that lived in that one
I
tiny
believe
cabin?
so.
Oh, well, that's good news. I'll go tell her right now. That'll probably cheer her up to where she's like, I'll pay more taxes in the state. Hey, Ashley, you know the cabin up here at Billy's? It was a freed slave that lived in there.
She raised 17 children.
Oh, you knew that she was free?
He was born enslaved.
Born enslaved. Yeah. She had a good life growing up.
Children. Did you read the whole thing?
No. Okay. Apparently she knows more than I do. I don't have to tell her anything anymore. So I just stopped. I learned my lesson.
It is a really sweet spot for a studio, though, and that's one of the cool things we offer is we're not just coming to a cubicle somewhere or or just a Zoom show. It's an experience. You come up there, you get the cabin experience. You get good food and you get to breathe mountain air. And if you come up for 2 or 3 days and want to hang out, then we're floating the river, we're riding a mountain. If you want to go hunting, if you want to go fishing, if you want to go hiking, if you want to catch a show at the Harvester 5 Points Music Sanctuary, where I recommend going, good music, whatever you want to do, you can schedule your weekend around almost anything you want to do and spend 3 days up here, come on a show and that's just anybody out there and have a really good time doing it. And what we'd like to ultimately do is coordinate to where, we do have guests coming in. Hey, you like this band? Well, come in and we're going to hook you up with VIP tickets, to go see them. And you come in and do a show. Maybe we do a live show somewhere downtown with a Q&A, depending on what kind of a guest you are. But we got some really cool people, and Chip's seen some of them, and Chip can attest to this as well. Some of the people we haven't reached out to that we're pretty sure we could get once we reach out to them, but we want to make sure we have the cameras in place because these are the guests that you want to have clips of. And we're nothing special. We're just a good team. Everybody comes together and offers a little something different, but you have fun. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. You want to come on the show, you want to have fun. You don't want to be stuffy and awkward and answering weird questions. You want to sit around with a couple of guys like you're on the fishing on the riverbank, cracking open some beers. That's kind of what it is. It's a conversation.
I think a shooting range would be fun.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what it's like to step outside your house and be able to shoot a gun without going to jail.
He's got the perfect spot for shooting, and the armory's not bad either.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we did. We had Spike come up. Shout out to
Safe Side Tactical.
There you go. I can't even. I should be the one remembering this kind of. But it's been a couple years now. Yeah, Safe Side Tactical. They sent a guy down and some automatic weapons, and they went down on the bottom of the hill. And Spike and Simon and everybody, Heather, shot some automatics, and we fired off the cannon. And Spike sold. He got us in the Students for Liberty conference and going back next year to be some speakers. I think we'll get into that a little bit later. Mike, we got to get you up there for this go round. It's going to blow your mind, Matthew. Maybe even you come to this one. It's worth sitting back and observing and watching Simon and Amos in action, speaking to all these young libertarians from across the globe who this is some of their first American experience, and it's Amos and Simon that they're coming across.
Yeah, don't you think you should get somebody that they can understand?
Oh no, that's the best part is watching them try and communicate, although they both speak English.
When is it?
It's the February 7th weekend, whatever that weekend is around February 7th.
I will take a look and see what I'm doing.
I'm going to be hitting up Brian here very, very shortly and working with Chip to try and get our rooms and stuff comped because they asked us last year, do we possibly want to be a speaker and at one of the breakout sessions? And, I can come or go with that. I think Smokey would be a much better speaker and Chip, and Simon and Amos would be the most for your value of entertainment. But, just getting up there and getting to interact, it's a lot of fun seeing us way out of our element.
See, my problem is I'm an old man that goes to sleep at 31 minutes ago, and I know y'all are gonna be like, "No, let's drink." I'll be like, "Oh God." Come
Well,
back.
Get a Rife machine, you'll get energy back. Just like a month, dude, and then you're going like you're 12 years old again.
Well, and crazy things do happen in DC. We know that from experience at this point.
Well, I was going to say when we made our trips, in fact, because we went to Chip and I went to two of them, but the whole crew went to Students for Liberty, and night number one of us got taken out by an ambulance. I'm not going to mention which one
Oh,
that
God.
it was, but we made it to breakfast the next morning. Everything was good, but you know it
Take the redneck out of the mountains, but you can't mountains out of the redneck.
I don't know if we made it to breakfast, but I at least made it to lunch.
Yeah, but it's a really good time, and we get to sit down with some interesting people and record some shows. And I'm hoping this go in, we'll have our cameras, we can take them and do some video shows, maybe shorten it up a bit. And you know, we had Topher Field on, and that was I mean, just a drunk Australian sitting next to a drunk Englishman going toe to toe over COVID, and it was just a great conversation. And of course, we had Spike come back on for a show, but it was a lot of fun, you know. And these are a lot of things we want to do because a lot of those people, a lot of those young students, even you know the not just international ones, they didn't know much about Appalachia. They didn't even know really if it even existed. They don't really know the culture. So for a lot of them, this is their first interaction with somebody from the region. So it's really getting our message out there and getting people across the world interested in coming to our area and spending money and exploring, and it's pretty cool.
For anybody that doesn't know the culture, I always tell them just look at Scotland and Ireland. You know, back in the 1800s, that's the culture.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Is there anything else y'all gentlemen wanted to talk about? I'm going to go to a couple people that requesting to speak, and if anybody wants to ask some questions or, chip in or show your opinion, go ahead and request now. But is there anything else y'all gentlemen wanted to talk about?
The only thing I wanted to say, I want to give a shout out to Remy Van Engelhoven, who's listening diligently from University Park, Iowa. She is the wife of Dave, who is our designer and who can't tell you how good a job he does for us. If you've appreciated any of our Being Libertarian memes, Dave was almost certainly part of it at some point. So good to have you, Remy. Thanks for being here.
Are you guys making those memes, or did you just find a buttload of them every once in a while?
We make probably 80 to 85% of our memes. It's very rare that we share one that we didn't make. And again, Dave is a major part of that. So here in the last month, it's just been a field day. We've had so much fun.
I mean, they're awesome, dude. They are freaking hilarious. You need to start watermarking. I mean, then you're looking like, oh, what's his name? I don't know. Do whatever you want. They're great.
Sorry.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll freely admit that when I wake up at 4:30 and I'm sitting here with my coffee trying to wake up for the day, your page is absolutely the one that I hit that gives me the laughing power to open my eyes further.
I love hearing it. And, that's usually really early morning memes. That's usually me. Dave usually wakes up about 10 or 11. So he's there around lunchtime. And then Matt, who's our Twitter guy, he's sort of in and out all through the day. But we appreciate that. That's what keeps us going because we love it. It's so much fun.
Well, whenever Billy gets those cameras up and going, you should put all these memes on kind of like a digital camera, but like a TV and have it playing in the background, dude. You got thousands of them. It'd be a great addition to any show.
We'll just have a scrolling marquee. That'd be great.
Problem is, it'll start and never finish.
No, it wouldn't, because we've got memes going back to 2016. Yeah. It's crazy.
You ought to break out some of those and see which ones aged really, really well.
Well, we're going to make a page, Being Libertarian Classic, and actually go back and start posting all of our old school memes and tell what date it came out. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Well, can you have you got any new information on the app y'all are trying to get going? Because that's really exciting. As the Being Libertarian app, what's kind of the update on that?
Well, it's good to go for the Android. Apple's being a little more of a pain in the ass. I've got a couple of things on our website I've still got to update for them, but we're almost there. Once we have that app, it'll be nice to be our own censors and not have overlords. So yeah, we've got that in play, and we should have that by no later than Christmas this year.
Yeah, Apple gets a little bit rough on application and like submitting an app for them to approve. But after my app was on the Google store for like a month, they ended up taking it down and they become a problem after that. But let me know when you get that going. I'll throw advertisement up through mine.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, that's what I'm worried about because, I'm already having issues with Google Ads. Every now and then I'll get some random, oh, your article violates our publisher policies, and I haven't. It's from like 4 or 5 years ago. It's nothing current. It's just those are just persistent. So I fully expect that'll happen with Google.
Also tiresome.
Yeah, so even though you have your own app and you're not being censored, I guess they're censoring you through the App Store.
Well, that's what they did with Telegram. Is that you can't see like a third of the links people post on the news groups on Telegram if you download it through the App Store. But if you go to Telegram's actual website and download it from there, you don't get any of the censored stuff.
Yeah, so on Android, Apple has it to where you have to download from their store, but Android, they run something that's called an APK file. So anybody can have any app and have your APK file that you can install. I thought about if Apple were to cut me off, and so did Google, that's the route I would end up going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what mine used to do. They may still do that. But yeah, that's a good call.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that at some point in time, maybe we can get an app, or if nothing else, kind of jump in and collab with Chip some way, shape, or form to get it to where the podcast is on the app there as well. It's another place you'll be able to hear it. But once we get again everything up and rolling with the cameras, we're gonna have to just all sit down and put our brains together and figure out the proper method of distribution and stuff like that. But we've got a lot of opportunity. I'm really excited about it. So let's go ahead and get to a couple.
Well, really quick, dude, hit me up anytime. If you get something together, I'll definitely throw your podcast up on my app. No problem at all. You'll have an extra 100,000 people.
Well, hell yeah, that'll work. Like I said,
that'd be huge.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just part of building the brand. So yeah, we'll get together and have a lunch here soon and hang out for a day or something up at Simon's and put all of our brains together and figure out what's the best way to kick this thing off into high gear. Which,
Get some Boland's hot dogs.
absolutely.
Let's still get there.
Well, you've got Hannah Claire Brimlow that can help you out now. She's, I don't know if she'd be interested or whatever, but partially, I was thinking about reaching out to her and asking her, like, if she needed income in the meantime, that she could take over, like, my TikTok and Instagram, everything but my Twitter, and be able to make videos for me, and I'd pay her through that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how she would fare up here on the mountain. I'd love to have her, though, if she wanted to come on as a guest or something like that. Or, yeah, she's got experience, obviously.
Write her and be like, we're going to do a TimCast breakdown, and we want you to be the first one to expose it all.
You should, your next guest appearance, you should have this reporter that got shot accidentally by Adam Kinzinger at the shooting event today come on and talk about their experience with that.
No, actually, there's one person I've been wanting to get on for a long time, and I'm excited. We don't want to wait for the cameras at this point. Is Beth Macy. I don't know if a lot of people know who she is, but she's wrote a bunch of books, one of them being Dope Sick, that turned into that TV show, the miniseries or whatever. And she's done a lot of investigatory work on the opioid epidemic and the crisis, and she's very familiar with it. And I think that's something I definitely want to tackle and bring on, because that's just one of the things that's just killing our region, amongst others.
That'd be a great idea. Have you ever thought of, or you probably have thought about it, but have you reached out to Nick Freitas up in Culpeper?
Not yet. He's on a to-do list. He's one of the. We're gonna send Chip's account after that one, because he's got a little bit more of a following though. So yeah, he's definitely on the to-do list. I'd like to get him down for sure. We got Daniel Turner at Bristol Farms. He's expressed interest. The Lectern guy, he's expressed interest. We got we got a lot of cool people lined up. We haven't even mentioned yet, but
let's who are you going to have ask questions or speak?
It looks like Citizen Mike right there is the only one that requested so far, so maybe he's got a question or a comment.
You guys have covered a lot this evening, and I've been waiting a long time, so I don't even know where to start, but this has been a great conversation. How far does Appalachia go? I'm up in Harrisburg. We still got the Appalachians going up to Maine, I think. Appalachians? Maybe
Yeah,
I'm
you go from Georgia to up to Maine.
Technically into Nova Scotia. In fact, let me go see if I can drop a map into the purple pill thing real quick. Hang on.
It goes down into Alabama as well. It almost reaches Montgomery. You can still see the mountains from Montgomery. So
you guys were talking about north like it's DC. You got some friends north of DC.
It definitely goes north. Like, so I grew up in northern Appalachia, and people like to say, "Oh, it's not the same." Like, there's a lot of similarities. You know, what's happening currently to the coal industry happened up there to the iron mining industry 100 years beforehand.
Yeah, I don't. That's kind of why I named it the Appalachian Podcast. You know, obviously we're right here in the heart of Appalachia, and we're kind of what most people think of when they think of Appalachia. But in my humble opinion, look, if you're a mountain person, it doesn't matter if you're in northern Alabama or central Pennsylvania. Like, the mountains are the mountains, and you have a different way about yourself, and you're a little bit more resilient. So, you know, we actually have a really big show we haven't released yet. We recorded before a hiatus with Smokey and Chip, and we all sat down and had a massive conversation about what an actual state of Appalachia would look like, what cities we'd bring in, what the borders would be, what our industry would be. And I haven't released it yet because it's not necessarily time sensitive. I've been holding on to it, but I think after what's went on down in Western North Carolina and East Tennessee over the past few weeks, I think the conversation is bigger than ever. I mean, you really need to have conversations about a post DC centralized government world. You need to have, you know, an idea for that because they're not coming to help. So
Yeah, I was being a bit flip, but I really am curious, and I am a late comer to the party, but how is everybody down there? How is it going to affect the election? There, in fact, actually, I'll get to the point. What's going to be the tipping point before we actually do something? And I'll open it up.
I mean,
hunger.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can say is that people today are better off than they were a week ago. But, you know, it's in one day, the Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, very southern Southwest Virginia was, you know, dramatically changed. I didn't go down myself. I've been just busy with work and family stuff, but I've been trying to, you know, coordinate different supply donations and stuff, like different drops, you know, sending people volunteers where they can do the best, you know, good. And I have friends that multiple combat deployed veterans to Iraq, Afghanistan, some that were even there in the initial invasion of Iraq. And they said that what they witnessed was the worst devastation that they've ever seen. Right now, the problem is that there's a lot of supplies. There's actually an almost overabundance of supplies in certain areas. People are kind of getting into the routine of, hey, we just need to get warm and stay warm. And the big draw that people need right now it's construction. It's contractors with heavy equipment and material. You know, they don't need cases of water. They need steel beams and railroad ties and gravel to rebuild bridges just to get off of the road that was just kind of recut into the mountainside and onto their driveway.
He cutting out for anybody else?
Oh, was I cutting out?
I can still hear.
So yeah, I'm actually trying right now to figure out. I got a couple of people that are reaching out every day. I have a couple of people reaching out. Hey, you know, I want to bring supplies, or I want to go down and volunteer. What can I do? And the real thing is just we need kind of like a better picture of what's going on and who needs what now. I think a lot of what has happened is the same thing I said was going to happen 2 days after, you know, the storm ripped through the mountains, and it's compassion fatigue sets in. The people that, you know, everyone rushed to help right at the beginning, and a lot of people, you know, through no fault of their own, they felt that, hey, I've done my part. I've volunteered, or I donated a box of crackers, and the media cycle moved on. And to a lot of the country, since the media didn't even really cover anything that happened down there, it's, oh, everything must be fine down there. The military finally got to them. In reality, it's media cycle hasn't moved on for those folks down there.
So if you guys know Chaotic Good on here, she's been helping out a lot. And she's done something really impressive. She's made pickup locations to where she has truckers going through, like they're going through Bristol, and they'll stop at this specific location and pick up supplies that have been bought and sent in there. And she was telling me she knows a lot about what's going on. She was saying that, there's a lot of people that are just back in their house and they're going to muck out their house and rebuild everything. So they're just needing like consistent supplies to be able to stay alive and to be able to, like food, stuff like that. And I'm sure tools too. She was telling me that a lot of rescue has been done and taken place, but now like cadaver dogs, they're starting to find like limbs and fingers and stuff. So it's going through a lot of hits and they have to dig up and so I guess that's the current state.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. I think one of the good things was was it last weekend already? Pacific Northwest Guerrilla Alex Rogan Camp, who sells a military surplus, he put together like a $60,000 order of like winter weather gear, like jackets, woobies, wool blankets, socks, just old military surplus stuff. And I think he donated about $20,000 of it out of his own pocket. He lives on the West Coast. He flew to Kentucky to the Miltech factory, picked it up, and drove it in. And the night that they were offloading the stuff at the Emmanuel Church where they were at, it started snowing. So, talk about arriving just in time with things that are needed.
Yeah, a big shout out to him. His handle is what? It's PNW Gorilla.
Yeah, hang on one second. I'll get you the exact.
And if anybody remembers, this is kind of wild. I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months ago, the first video we really had that kind of went viral, had over 3 million views, was just his video, and I didn't know it was him. I just kind of shared it, and it's him in the snow. How did it go, Smokey? He yelled at somebody.
He's wearing an ATF jacket, and he says, "Hey, do you have a tax stamp for those weapons?" And the guy responds back with, "Are those level 4 plates?" He's like, we need to get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, it was just a funny little thing, and I just said, "Meanwhile in Appalachia," and I posted it, and it just went wild. And then he actually commented on there, damn, I need to do my watermarks better or something. I said, "Brother, I didn't know it was you," and I made another post afterwards. I think he said he got a couple thousand followers just off of that. I was like, "Dude, follow this guy; it's hilarious." And here we are, just kind of making that connection. And then 6 months later,
PNW Gorilla, spelled like gorilla, not gorilla.
Yeah, like the
freedom,
the Central Americans, the gorillas.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, and we kind of make that connection or whatever. And here he is 7 months later, like you said, flying in and delivering supplies to our people down in North Carolina. And what a dude, and that's somebody I want to fly back in when it's a better time and let him really experience the better part of Appalachia and hang out for a week. And that's one thing I do want to do when we get some revenue in here is fly that dude out here. He's earned it. He's earned a trip for what all he did for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak or have questions? We got a handful of listeners down there. If anybody wanted to chip in and speak or request, go ahead and we'll give you an opportunity. Well, I got a crying baby on my shoulders, and gentlemen, I guess that's a good time to end it. Then I don't think anybody else has anything else they want to say or ask. So
I'm happy with that. Gets me to bed at a reasonable enough time to get up and go do stupid sports field work.
Hey,
well, guys, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Matthew, thanks for showing up. Enjoyed chatting with you. Had a great time tonight.
Well, hey, before everybody goes, really quick, listen, guys, I got a bunch of like bench-made knives and everything. If you guys want to be able to put these together and maybe auction them off and let all the proceeds go to like Helene victims, I'm more than willing to give them up to be able to do that.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, we could put something out there like that and figure something out. We'll get together offline or something. And Matthew, I think we probably need to add you to our text chain at this point in time. It's us and Simon and Amos and Stuart, and it's just kind of all the minds of the area. So I think we're gonna have to just add you that. Maybe we'll come up with something in there.
Yeah, throw me onto it.
Excellent. Well, for everybody else out there, appreciate y'all listening to us. And I'm actually going to get off here and rip this and upload it as a podcast form. So tomorrow it'll be out under the Appalachian Podcast, Spotify, Apple. And hey, if you're listening on those, go on there and give us 5 stars. It helps in the ratings. I don't know how, but the more reviews and you can just say something like you like Simon's accent. You ain't going to be nothing fancy. Just put 5 stars and that throws us up in the algorithms. I mean, the downloads have been going crazy lately. We got a lot of new people listening. We appreciate all of you. I'm excited that so many people are interested and excited about Appalachia the way we are. That's the coolest part of it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. What's that?
I said thank you, Billy.
Well, no, thank you. And once again, if everybody's listening too as well, go give Smokey a follow. I don't think he has gotten enough credit for what he has done over the past 2 or 3 weeks trying to coordinate and operate, sharing information, researching, finding the best place. I know he's made a few posts saying, I've never been more prouder to be an Appalachian, seeing some of these people and their efforts. I've never been more proud to call this dude a friend. Everybody should be giving him a follow and paying attention to him. He's a good person, and all his hard work and effort during, these last couple of weeks hasn't went unnoticed. I can say that. So,
well, shucks. Thank you, brother.
You're here. True.
So if everybody else, look, once again, if you want to support us, if you're listening right here on Next, go right up to the subscriber tab. We're going to have some subscriber-only spaces coming up when we get enough of y'all in there. We've got 5 now. We need, I want to get up to like, 20 or 30. It just went online this week, so not a lot of people know about it, but $3 a month, or you can go to patreon.com/getontap, $3 a month over there. We put our after show on that site, so you get, sometimes up to an hour of us going really raw, and some of those shows are funny. It's a good time, and you get shows early most of the time. And it's another place to interact with us to where we know how you really are, supporting us on another level. So we interact with you more over there. We give you the opportunities to come hang out and stuff. And like you boys can attest, we always have a good time, and we want more people to be coming and having a good time with us. We want this to grow. So thank y'all so very much for tuning in. And I guess we'll catch you next week sometime.
All right, brother.
Good night, guys. Enjoyed it. Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Take care.
I hadn't been this drunk for so long. Spent all my money chasing some good-looking honey down in a honky-tonk. I thought she was a queen of hearts, but she turned into a joker that didn't hang around too long. So, oh Lord, if you're up there smiling down on me, I don't ask for much, I only take just what I need. So give me weed, give me whiskey, and play a Hank Jr. song. Give me weed, give me whiskey, and play a Hank Jr. song. Now I learned at an early age, the man up above won't try to steer you wrong. So sure that he'd understand if tonight I decided that I need to get stoned. They taught me that's a good book, it holds all the answers in life that I'd ever need to know. Whiskey been in hellbound, this show hit me right. It rocks me right down to my soul. So give me weed, give me whiskey, and play a Hank Jr. song. Give me weed, give me whiskey, smiling down